Today, I am going to introduce you to an AI agent designed specifically for ComfyUI. You can think of this agent as a ComfyUI expert. Its knowledge base integrates the usage methods for the vast majority of nodes currently found in ComfyUI, so it can help you build ComfyUI workflows very conveniently and quickly. The version we are talking about today is a special edition jointly developed by RunningHub and ComfyUI Copilot. We can use this version directly on RunningHub. You can access the platform via runninghub.ai in the ComfyUI field. RunningHub is a fantastic online workbench because it follows up immediately whenever new models or extensions appear. You can register for RunningHub using the invitation link in my video description, which will get you 1,000 free points. Additionally, simply logging into RunningHub daily gives you 100 gifted points, so you can test out your own workflows. Next, we are going to run a comprehensive test from various angles to see what makes this special edition of ComfyUI Copilot different after logging into RunningHub. Click on Workbench, and then we can create a new workflow. In the toolbar on the left, you can see an icon called ComfyUI Copilot. This is the entry point for the agent. Let's click to open it. You'll see a welcome message. You can select a model yourself. It currently supports 4 models. Here, I'll just choose Gemini 2.5 Flash. Let me briefly explain the difference between this RunningHub-based agent and the ComfyUI Copilot you might install yourself from GitHub. This special edition agent possesses a much richer knowledge system. Aside from the traditional ComfyUI Copilot knowledge, it also takes all the workflows built by RunningHub creators, the uploaded models, and even published works, tags them, digitizes them, and builds them into this agent's knowledge base. Therefore, its overall capabilities are much more powerful. First, let's demonstrate its basic capability, node search. We often need to add nodes in a workflow, but sometimes specific nodes are hard to find. Let me give you an example. We often have an audio file and want to get its duration. This seems like a common function, but people often can't find the suitable node. Let's see if using this agent can help us find it. I'll tell it I want a node that can calculate the length of an audio file. Let's submit that. The model enters the inference stage, so let's wait a moment. Okay, now it has recommended several nodes. Most are based on sound flow. Not every single one is accurate, but you'll find there are indeed usable nodes here. For example, this one called audio duration. We can click Add to Canvas to add it to our workflow. Look, we can connect an audio source here, and it outputs the seconds at the end. So searching for a node is relatively simple. However, please note that this depends entirely on the precision of its knowledge base. Let's search for another node, one that is even more commonly used. For instance, we want to search for the node load diffusion model. We use this all the time, but if you ask it to search for it, let's try. My prompt is very simple. Give me a model loading model. Let's generate. You'll find there are many results, but load diffusion model isn't there. Why? Because you have to realize that in the original node library, its name is UnetLoader. Later, it was renamed load diffusion model. The reason is simple. From SD 1.5 to SDXL and then to the later Flux, the model architecture changed. Originally, you could call it UNET, but later they became transformer-based, so calling it UnetLoader wasn't appropriate anymore. But in the original knowledge base, it is indeed called UnetLoader. If you actually add it to the workflow, you'll see it is labeled Load Diffusion Model. So the granularity and accuracy of the knowledge base are very important for using an agent. If it can search for nodes, it should also be able to search for models and workflows. First, let's look at model search. Let's say I need an anime model. I can use a prompt like this. Let's look at the return results. Down here, you can see basic anime models. Overall, it looks pretty good. You can click View Details to go into the model page and see specific content. However, during my testing, model retrieval had some issues. First, the intent recognition isn't very clear. Second, the knowledge base is a bit outdated. For example, I gave it a prompt where my intent was to get a video generation model, but in the end, what I got wasn't a model, but a workflow. So you'll notice it doesn't always identify the intent accurately. Additionally, the outdated knowledge base is an issue. For instance, I used a prompt asking for a QW image LoRA. LoRA is of course a type of model, so my phrasing shouldn't be a problem. Let's generate. Look, it says no relevant models found. If I change the prompt slightly, removing accelerated and just asking for a QW image model LoRA, let's see if we can get it. Look, there's an interaction now. During this interaction, the base models it asks me about are very old ones we barely use anymore. Meanwhile, the newest models aren't included. So the knowledge base is relatively stale, which I think is an area that urgently needs improvement. Next, let's look at workflow retrieval. This should be the most powerful feature of this agent. For example, I hope it can find me a VACE workflow. I'll use a prompt for that and click send. Now we've got 3 workflows. These are indeed all VACE workflows. Some are for first to last frames, some for auto extension. These were all built by creators on RunningHub. This workflow retrieval capability is something the traditional ComfyUI Copilot cannot match. Let's search for another one, an infinite talk workflow. I'll simply change the prompt. You can see the returned results are also quite accurate. If you want to use a specific workflow, you can add it directly. I can click accept. This is a workflow I built previously. This demonstrates its powerful retrieval capabilities, whether for nodes, models, or workflows. The whole mechanism is based on retrieval. However, for a standard agent, besides powerful retrieval, another indispensable capability is reading and writing workflows. For example, I have this workflow here, and I don't know what it does. I can ask the agent to parse this workflow for me. My prompt is very simple. Please explain this workflow using the most plain, easy to understand language. Let's wait a moment. Now we have an output. It provides a detailed analysis of the workflow, explaining every node, including node names and IDs. In addition to reading the entire workflow, it can also read individual nodes. For example, let's pick a random node. Notice that after selecting it, there's an explanation showing what node is selected. You can choose to understand its usage, its parameters, or what related nodes are used downstream. For instance, let's check its usage. It is very simple. It explains specifically which extension it belongs to, its main function, and the principle behind it. If you want to understand its parameters, keep the node selected and click Parameters. Look, there's a very detailed explanation of the parameters. We can also ask about downstream nodes, though sometimes if there are too many, it might hang, so we won't test that right now. Finally, let's look at asking it to generate a workflow. Invoking the generate workflow function isn't always easy. Sometimes it defaults to just recommending existing workflows, but we can try this method. I'll upload an image. We can see roughly there is a boat on the left side of this image. Now I'll write a prompt. The main goal of the prompt is to remove the boat on the left side of the picture. Let's see what kind of feedback we get. Okay, we've obtained a workflow. Notice that this is a flux dev workflow. If you want to understand it in detail, we can open it up. It lists the basic composition of the nodes. It seems to be a flux context workflow. Using this technology is fine, though I feel using QW image might be better, but let's try it out. We'll upload the image, change nothing else, and run it directly. Let's wait a bit. Let's look at the result. Indeed, we successfully removed the boat on the left. The overall effect is quite good. So that is the RunningHub version of ComfyUI Copilot that we wanted to show you today. I suggest everyone give it a try. That is all for today. Follow me to become someone who understands AI.